How are you? Good, how are you?
I was gonna make it.
Waking up.
I left my house at
Tell you what, I'll
noon
bring
for a
this up
meeting and got
here.
home at 2 o'clock for a hay delivery. And baby goats.
Oh, no.
How many? Two, but mom was a bottle baby, and when she saw me after she was taking care of him, she was
Yeah.
5.4 pounds and 7 pounds. So 13 pounds of babies.
Is that a big goat or a little goat?
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, you cook them until they're like week old. I mean, of course I have photos.
Of course you do.
That would be really silly if I didn't. So this is the bigger one, so just sitting next to my foot. Brand new, he's like an hour. Okay, we will call this a special meeting, board meeting of the Kiona Benton School District 52 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are here for the interview of a potential board member.
And if you'd like, I can take care of the questions, and that will allow you guys to just concentrate on either writing down answers or thinking of follow-ups or any of that good stuff. We will not be asking question number 7 because Tressa does not have any relatives in the district, so we don't need to worry about that one. Tressa, I invite you, come on up here, there's no reason to.
Yell across the room.
Exactly. And like I said, this is fairly informal. Please, if there's something you don't understand or you're thinking of something else and you want to go back to a question, don't hesitate. It won't bother anybody a bit. So.
Okay.
The questions are there, so we're not trying to trick you. And then just, talk about yourself a little bit, about your experiences, anything you've done as far as trainings go, what your interests are, and then what you hope to contribute to the district.
Okay. So you just want me to talk first, or we ask the questions?
No, I did, yeah, just that's number 1, I'll ask each
Okay.
one.
Okay. So my experience, I've not been on a school board before, but I've been a parent for 31 years, most of it in the Kybee School District. I have a 31-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. And I have been involved extensively in all their activities. My daughter is a 2012 graduate of Kybee. I was a graduate 1989. My mom graduated in 71, my dad in 1970. So we have a long history at Kybee. There's some streets named after my family, Kindle Corners, my family, the Kindles. So we have a long history in Kybee. I have a lot of pride in Benton City. And I have actually coached cheer for Kybee. I coached Dan's daughter, Katie. I have coached soccer, I can coach little kids when they're just getting them moving. Done a little bit of coaching and everything just to kind of help out. I've always been the parent that helps out. My daughter did club sports, so very involved in traveling with sports. In my career, I am a registered polysomnography technologist, which is a fancy name for a sleep tech. I started the sleep lab for Lourdes Medical Center from scratch. I've been a sleep tech for almost 28 years. And I started that lab from scratch. I was the supervisor at Lourdes Hospital for over 13 years. I then took a break to raise my son, who he was born my nephew. I adopted him when he was first born. So that's why I had a kind of a start over. But I took several years off to raise him, kind of paid off the whole thing and just stayed home and raised him as a single parent. I've been a single parent the whole time I've had him. I'm very motivated on things for the kids. I've taught preschool. I have a lot of experience with children. My experience with adults is as a supervisor in a sleep lab. I've worked with the budgets. I've worked with the, making everything, the checks and balances. And I think my experience and help for the district would just be the fact that I'm here for the school. I'm here for the kids, the parents, and the teachers, So, long story long.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you hope to accomplish as a school board director?
My main thing is everybody complains about stuff and then nobody does anything. So I figure I can't sit back and complain if I'm not going to be involved and try to help out and work with people to find solutions together. I just hope to accomplish some transparency for the town so that people in the community realize what is really going on. So they don't, I hear a lot of this on social media. Nobody's telling us the truth or no one's telling us that. But I think they don't make the effort to come in and really find out. They just want to stay at home and type on their computers and say stuff. So that's why I'd like to have like a bridge between the community and the school board and everybody, work together.
Tressa, what do you see as the major strengths and shortcomings of the district?
I think there's a lot of confusion on like where the money's going. I think that's the transparency. That's what I see from the public, that they're asking, well, where is this going? And they just want more transparency, I believe. I think the strengths are that we do have a great community and we do have people that really care. I think some of them are just afraid to get involved or they don't know how to get involved.
Good. And you've talked about this, but I'll just, what do you see as your role in the community once you've been selected? And do you see that changing? Does that make sense?
I see my role in the community as just being a voice for the school and trying to make it more a community and not a them against us kind of thing. Do I see that changing? I hope so. I would love, we have two great members on here that have experience, and then we have new people on the board. So I think a combination of that is going to be good for change for the community and for the school board.
Okay. Do you have any commitments which might prevent you from attending regularly scheduled meetings, workshops, or from reading study materials? And then are you available to participate for 4 days in Spokane or Seattle at the WASDA conference in November?
I do not see any scheduling issues. I do work graveyards, but my job is very flexible. I pretty much set the schedule. So if I know something's coming ahead, I've already told them that possibly I can't work any Mondays, which is fine with me. So yeah. So I don't see any problems with that at all.
All right. Number 6, how effectively do you think you can work with me and the other board members?
I think that I could work well. I think everybody has the same goal in mind, is to help the schools and make the school a better place. And I think everybody is very open-minded, it seems, and I think we would have a great board. So I think we could, I would work well with them.
And there is no right or wrong answer for this one. On number 8, what do you think the characteristics of a good board member are?
Everything, I think the characteristics would be, I'm very empathetic, and so I take everything to heart, but I do know that I can't always put like my feelings first. And so I think that a good board member can see what they want, but could see what's best for the whole community and not just what they want. So I think that's what a good board member would be.
Number 9, hypothetical. If you vote against an issue and the remainder of the board votes for an issue, how will you handle this situation? And will you publicly support the majority decision?
It's a good question. Well, I know you have to support the board because you are a team. Honestly, I'm not sure. I guess it would, I don't think I would, I mean, I wouldn't be like, I would still give my point of view, but I would support the group, you know, because it is a board, it's not just a me thing. So I would support the decision, but still have my own opinion. Does that make sense? No.
All right, and of course, I gave you these questions all of about 30 seconds before, so I don't know how much you had a chance to look at them, but did you come in with any questions to ask the board themselves or me or anything?
I've been coming to the meetings so that I could know what it actually entailed before I actually made the decision. I know Teddy had come to me last year when she was thinking about stopping, and I live in the same neighborhood as her. And at first I said, no way. My skin's not thick enough. You know, people in this town can be pretty mean sometimes. And then I just started coming to the meetings. I wanted to make sure what I was getting into before I jumped in. So I don't really have a lot of questions because I've been coming and trying to figure it all out first. Anything else you want to know about me?
Anything we didn't ask that you were just dying to tell us?
I don't think so. I overshare, so you probably know my whole life story by the end of this. No, I don't think so.
What do you see right now as the biggest problem that the school and the board face?
What do I see? The levy, financial, like how we're gonna figure out how to make school like not a reason, you know, not where you just go for your school classes and that's it. There's no extra stuff. So a way to find a balance so that the kids aren't just going for, you know, your core subjects and not getting, you know, the other stuff. I think that's our biggest issue right now is figuring out how we get that levy to pass.
Anybody have any other questions they're dying to ask Tressa?
When does Tressa's seat come up for election?
If my math is correct, because an appointment is for no more than 2 years, so I think she'd have to run again in 27. Same as Danielle. Because you go a calendar year and then the next election after that, so you'd be up for re-election in 27.
Thank you for volunteering. But, so are you planning to run, or is that kind of when it comes up for election, or is that kind of gonna test the waters here for 2 years? Or?
I'll test the waters and see how it goes. I'm stuck here for 7 years, not stuck, but I'm here for 7 years. I told my son we're not going anywhere until he graduates, and so I moved him around a little bit, and he's ready to just plant his roots here, so.
Thank you for even just applying, because it's definitely a community volunteer commitment that is extremely important. And I'm kind of in the same shoes as you when I ran, wanted to be able to, like, how, if you're going to want change, you need to be involved in the change. And I agree with your statement on that.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions we have. And it is 6:15, so we have 15 minutes till we start the regular meeting. If any of the board wants to have a discussion, we can step outside and have a discussion. Otherwise, if the board wants to go ahead and move forward with Tressa, we simply approve the agenda, which signifies that we're ready to go. And one of the agenda items is to give you the oath of office, at which point you'll take a seat next to Danielle and away we go. So I would say I'll turn this back over to Gina to conclude, and then we can come back in about 12 minutes.
Are we going to adjourn the meeting, or do we want to just see, are we
We make a
anything?
motion,
Yeah, you need to adjourn, and then if we can, basically the decision is if we pass the agenda as it's written,
Okay,
then the board approves having Tressa come onto the board.
okay, all right, well then we will adjourn this special board meeting, and appreciate you coming in. Like allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to the approval of the agenda. Do you have any comments, questions, or modifications?
make that motion. I'll second.
All in favor of the approval of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to delegations. Pete?
Yeah, thank you very much, Gina. As I told the board after our last meeting, I had the pleasure of going over to the Mac Classic this 2 weeks ago. And our wrestlers are here tonight to be recognized, and I'd like to introduce Flavio Sandoval and Brittany Cerna, our two coaches. Congratulations to them. They have worked and done an amazing job at getting more and more of our kids out, and I think that's reflected by the number of great athletes that you see here tonight. So I'll invite them to come up to the podium and tell us who they brought with them tonight.
Good afternoon, board. I'm Flavio. This is Brittany. This is Aubrey. Aubrey just became our second female to win multiple state titles in our program. JJ, she took second this year. This is our first year we had two female wrestlers in the finals in our program history, so that was pretty cool. As Uzi Torres, Uzi took sixth this year. This is Aiden. Aiden took fifth. Aiden's the first freshman we had place at state since 2011, so just that's huge. And this is Omar. Omar's one of our team captains. He took fourth this year. All these guys work super hard. Our entire team works hard. But these guys in particular, they're in the room training year round. Actually, right after this, we're gonna go back up and practice. We got a couple national qualifying tournaments we're gonna hit up in the next couple weeks, so we gotta go get ready for that. But this season was more of like a mental challenge for us. Just like getting ourselves out of some lows. Some of these guys, they had targets on their back this year, so we had to make sure we were ready for that. We went to state, took eight. That's the biggest number we've had taken to state in a long time, and places as well. Overall it's been a good season. We're just excited. We were excited to have the opportunity to continue and have a season this year. Representing KIB is always a privilege to us. So we're just excited to continue working hard, see what's next for us, our program. Cool. Any questions for us? Anything? Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
agenda? Do you have any comments, questions? Motion?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. And to our wrestlers and coaches, you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. Now is a nice break point if you feel like it.
Sounds good.
You have practice, I heard you say that.
Alright, thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to make sure that once they go through the state and everything else, that they come back and pay a visit to the board and say, here's how we did. It'd be really interesting.
So all of those 5 actually did place at state. Those were our state finals.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
misunderstood.
Nope, that's okay.
All right.
That's okay.
So we will move on to oath of office or board member.
So prior to the meeting at our previous special board meeting that we had at 6 o'clock, the board interviewed Ms. Tressa Watts to be on the board. The board has approved Tressa to go ahead and join us. So Tressa, if you wouldn't mind, if you come up, I will administer the oath of office. And I will go slow. And just repeat after me, please. So I, Tressa Watts,
I, Tressa Watts,
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington,
the Constitution and the laws of Washington,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of Director
of Director
of Kiona-Benton City School District,
of Kiona-Benton City School District,
Benton County,
Benton County,
State of Washington,
State of Washington,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. And you can grab your stuff, and there's an open chair right next to Danielle. And to everybody here, I just want to say thank you, because once again, we have 5 board members, and that, though we've been hit and miss now for a few years, a bit of time in coming and going, we have 5 board members. I'm very happy about that, so good work.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Tressa.
Yes.
We will move on to public comments. Do we have any electronic, Heidi? Do we have any from the audience? All right, well then we will move on to the director's report. We have athletics. Keith on.
Good evening, everybody. Well, athletically, we wrapped up winter sports. You had an opportunity to see our wrestlers. Started spring sports on Monday, the second or third, I can't remember the dates. Spring sports are off to a great start. Numbers are improving for each program. The only one that we didn't offer was tennis. Held that open as literally as long as we could. Before I just felt like I needed to shut it down and get back to the league so they could fill out the rest of their schedule. We're getting great reports from parents regarding the new coaches, the new programs. I'm getting great reports from the kids. Specifically, I had a soccer kid come to me glowing about what's happening in the soccer program, and their numbers are up to, they're almost at 30 kids.
Wow.
And I remember going to a soccer game last year, and it looked like, I mean, I don't know how many guys are on the soccer field at once, but it looked like that might have been all we had. Yeah, 11.
Same as football.
Yeah, okay. but they feel like they are learning. The kid commented on the fact that he genuinely feels like coach cares about their competitiveness when it comes to soccer, and I think that was an awesome thing to hear. I've gotten emails from parents regarding baseball, and even more parents wanting to be involved. I've been working with both baseball and softball to try to figure out how we can stagger the senior ceremonies. That way we do have a parent who has a daughter and a son that's playing, so I should have that done pretty soon. We continue to have great numbers in the weight room. I'm opening the weight room up at 6:15 every morning. Last year around this time, I could count on maybe 5 or 6 kids showing up every morning. We have not dipped below 18 every morning. Sometimes we're up at 24 and 25. So the culture is definitely changing. The kids are doing the heavy lifting. I'm really just supervising. They make me feel like I'm having an impact, but it's them that's really doing all the leg work to really make a difference when it comes to the culture. And I typically, after weight sessions, I try to finish and I tell the kids that I hope that I'm adding value to their lives the same way that they add value to mine. I had a kid hit me with that today, which was, I'm not a very emotional guy, but it was a little bit of a tearjerker. But spring sports off to a fantastic start. We have softball Friday over in Riverview. Softball again Saturday. They'll be over at Hanford's Jamboree. Baseball will be in Zilla on Saturday. And then next week we start up all the games for all the other sports. Answer any questions for you guys?
Can you remind my son that it's not cool to scare his mom in the morning on the playground?
They're going to be pretty upset with me in the morning because we have champion circuit in the morning, but they don't know it. So, yeah. So I'll definitely get some payback for you in the morning.
I won't mention I talked to you.
Any other questions I can answer?
Great update, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
of course.
Don.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, guys.
All right. And no, Craig. Thank you for your printout in advance.
No problem. Good evening, and I actually have a little bit more of a simpler report this round. The next one I bring will probably have a lot more detailed information in some of the categories like I've shared before. One thing you're going to notice from the last period in regards to maintenance-related activities, you're going to see actually the number of work orders has dropped that have been submitted and turned in. And I want to compliment our team members that deal with custodial maintenance, those type of activities, because as we've been attacking things more preventatively and trying to be mindful of what happens if we don't fix this now, it's cut down the amount of active issues. So I think we're going to continue to see some of that number. It's going to go up and down based on season. I know when it gets hot, we're going to see a bump with probably more HVAC things, but I will say I do see a trend that I think we'll find some more balance soon. Where it lands, I'm curious, but more balance. So some of the reports I brought in before, we've had over 500, 600 work orders in a 90-day period turned in. And when I say work order, those are a teacher, a staff member, anyone around the district that has access to submit a work order saying this is broken, it needs fixed. And some of those preventive maintenance that we put on schedules. So being that we've gone from 500 or 600 of those down to 300 or so, that's good news to me. The rate of this and what you'll see on the next page with how many hours it takes to complete a work order, that data is finally starting to add up. Some of the reports I've brought before would show a work order on average takes 2 to 3 hours to complete for a staff member. You're going to see in this last period in 90 days, that jumped up to almost 7. And And a lot of that is that preventative maintenance time. So I think again, to simplify it, we get a few more 90-day periods put together, that number will average out and we'll get a good dot on what that looks like. As far as what to expect and what's still hanging out there work-related wise, we're still trying to stay ahead of some HVAC things so they don't become issues with our students in the classroom or interrupt education time. There's still more grounds work. Some of the storms we had really destroyed some things, and so we've been slowly getting through all of those tasks, including we can't even tell you how many yards of tumbleweeds we burned and disposed of. And there's still a few more to do. As far as around the district, one thing I did notate is we still are seeing quite a bit of vandalism, unfortunately inside our buildings and out. The principals, again, have been really good to work with. They are doing their best to stay on top of it if it's inside our buildings. But I would mention to the board that we are seeing some outside the building still, and that would be actual direct damage to items, just being aggressive and destroying things, or a lot of tagging. So custodial has done a good job trying to stay on top of the tagging and covering it, removing it, but it's becoming more prevalent. So I would share that. And law enforcement's been good to work with too. Usually report to the sheriff's department, they're on it right away, trying to figure out what's going on. Transportation wise, we did have one pretty significant repair over the last 90-day period. If you're familiar with large diesel powered equipment that uses DEF, we had a DEF header go out on a bus, and that's unfortunately not the cheapest part in the world on a school bus, but I appreciate finance working with us and trying to make sure we could get that repaired so the bus would work properly. And our mechanic did a good job because it could have been way more expensive, but he put a lot of effort in trying to cut down any cost and time on that. So I think he saved us probably about $3,000 doing a lot of that work. Our WSP, that's Washington State Patrol, routine inspection is coming up in May. That's where State Patrol has their inspectors come inspect our entire bus fleet. And they go through it very thoroughly to make sure it meets all the standards for safety. The last several times we've done that, we've scored very high and been very high as far as where they should be. So I look forward to that, and I think we'll, again, score high and have a good report. Are there any questions I can answer that I maybe skimmed over or that I can answer for you?
Do we use any like anti-graffiti paint outside the building and those types of things, or?
I think that's a great question. There are a lot of products now that you can use that would make the graffiti come off easier, more than there used to be. In the future, I would love to investigate more of those things. I don't know what that would look like cost-wise yet, but I would love to look into that, especially on some of the surfaces where it's really hard to remove it or cover it.
Then what's our outside coverage with cameras? Do we have?
We have good camera systems, especially, and I could always let our IT director talk more about that with where they're placed and things with you, but from what I've seen, anything really close to the building and when it comes to student safety, that seems to be the real focus of our camera system. But some of the things that are on the outskirts, the very perimeters of our properties, that's probably where we lose a little bit of that.
And you're sharing those like with law enforcement when it's needed?
Correct, yeah.
Anything that we have the ability to, if we can put a camera and it can pick up our wireless, because these are all internet-based cameras, then we're gold. It's when you start talking about like the baseball buildings, over towards the other side of the track, for instance, is where it gets spotty.
Yeah, and those happen to be some of the areas where we see some of that, unfortunately. Yeah, I would just compliment David. He does a good job, but anytime we need to make adjustments, he's on it very quickly to try to improve that. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to food service. Jennifer.
Not a ton going on, just feeding the kids, but I put in my first Sunbucks upload, and that came out to about 850 kids that are gonna get $120 to help feed them through the summer. So through the state, that qualified, and then I'll have 2 more before the end of the year to get anybody newly qualified or new students that we get into our district. So that's nice. I think it hurts our summer lunch program, but it's nice for the kids to be able to have,
Yeah.
so. Fresh fruit and vegetables going good. And our breakfast and lunch numbers are pretty steady, trying to keep all the kids healthy so they can come to school, but other than that, that's about all I have.
How many years have you done the summer food program?
That's a good question. I've only been in this spot for 3 years, but I think we've done it almost every year.
Is the 120
Well, it's 120, the kids get $120 for food to help them with while we're out of school. And I don't know, our numbers have dwindled for summer lunch, so, and I don't know if that's part of the reason, or
So just to, 850?
850 students is, I did
Quite a bit.
in the first upload that qualified for it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's really good.
I think, I would continue to look for things like this that are very positive
Yeah,
for, and communicating those types of things for levy support and those types of things. And I think, it's just a great job, you can't have 100 kids in the summer.
no. Just getting them here to feed them is the,
Right.
is the challenge.
I was wondering about that, because they grew up way out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
In Prosser, but I mean, it was only 5 miles from Woodstock. If I'm in that kind of situation as a kid, does the school, do we reach out to bring it into town? Or is it just?
A lot of, we just service at the elementary and they come, we're open for a half an hour at lunchtime and a half an hour at breakfast usually. But they have to come to us.
To get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a big challenge during COVID to get all the meals to the kids, so busing wise and all that, so.
Depending on what summer school looks like, we have run a very limited transportation for our summer school kids, who obviously then get easy
Yeah.
access. For kids who are not a part of a summer school program, though, it can be problematic, so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to technology. On cue.
Dave Rodriguez, the IT director here. For the IT department, not too many moving pieces for us, not too many big projects right now. We're just looking forward. Big thing for this week, we have the Pixel Lock camera, which is our high school football stadium camera that's being swapped out. The tech will be coming in on Thursday to get that swapped out, so pretty happy, excited about that. As far as what we have going on right now is testing season. I know I say that every time, but right now we're in preparation for state testing, which happens after spring. So with that, that's kind of the big one. We have to make sure almost 95% of all of our devices have the software installed. So working through that, like I say, we're at solid 93% at that. But I'm just making sure I'm working with Bruce and Mr. Henry to make sure that software's on any student laptop that we need. So moving on from there, we're kind of looking towards spring break right now. For the elementary school, we're gonna do a lot of physical cleanup of their devices. They have rolling cows, which are the computers on wheels, as well as they have some student laptops in their classrooms. So we're gonna make sure we give them a physical cleaning. I know teachers and custodial and whatnot, they try to make sure to keep things clean, but obviously we're the ones who most feel comfortable giving them a scrubbing. So that's what we're gonna be doing. So with the middle school, we're doing some cow maintenance, kind of the same thing with them, but since they use those specifically for the state testing, we're gonna sit down and make sure they're ready to roll. We've had a few issues with sometimes we get a laptop and it's missing an N key, and so we gotta make sure we gotta do a swap around for that and stuff like that. And then other than that, we just have a few, we're in a very much preventative mode right now. Like I said, not too many projects, so we're doing some blowouts. We're gonna actually give our servers some blowouts. We're having some power issues with some of our wireless access points, which give us wireless. So we're working through that, and then camera cleaning as well. And you guys kind of stole my thunder, but yeah, we'll be doing a lot of camera cleaning. They are high quality, but we've noticed with some of the domes, we need to give them a good scrubbing. We actually gotta get a polish on them to make sure that the weathering's coming off, so. We'll be knocking all that out as soon as, probably this week, honestly, we'll start, because the weather's starting to warm up, so. And then as far as cameras, just so you guys have just a little synopsis of what happened, or a little review. We did a full, one-for-one transfer over from our old system to our new system, Verkada, which is an all internet-based system. So what we ended up doing was just doing a one-for-one. If the camera was here, we put a camera there. And with that, we have noticed some blind spots, but I've been working with finance and all the directors to make sure we can get the best coverage we can. A few options we are looking at potentially is moving from standard cameras, which is about 110 degrees angle, to a fisheye. While it does look a little funky on the camera itself, we'll get way more coverage. So that's one of those things we're looking at. So, any questions?
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. And off he goes.
All right, we're moving on to special services. Diane?
I'm gonna take one of those and pass it down. Okay, for special education, I didn't put it on here, I forgot about it, but something that is happening this week is the state is now requiring special education, and it's based on regions, to do a parent survey. So our region, ESD 123, we will be sending out the survey every even year. So 2026, 2028, 2030. And we're sending that out via Parent Square, an email. We've posted it on our website and our Facebook. We're also sending paper notices, letting the parents know. Those parents who have a child on an IEP we're hoping will complete that survey. So we've pushed out the information that they gave us, and it has a link specifically for KIB. So the survey is anonymous, but parents will be letting us know which school the child attends, and then their specific questions regarding basically how special education is being served in that building. And we have a portal, so we're able to see the responses as they come in. And the portal's open through May. So it started this week, it's open through May, and then we'll be getting a report regarding those parent surveys. Transition meetings are being scheduled to prepare ECAP students who are going to kinder, 5th grade to middle school, and 8th grade to high school. What happens is principals, counselors, special education teachers from both buildings get together and discuss students and placement to ensure that our students are being placed according to the services that are stated on the IEP. And at that time, counselors are also reviewing the students who are on 504 plans, reviewing those students that are coming up to the next building or grade level. So dual language, tomorrow, we're inviting you to a dual language open house. This year we started dual language with our kindergarten classrooms. And so they are just opening up their classrooms to those families who have children in those dual language classrooms. And if you are available, we'd love to see you there. I believe it's 5 to 6. I'm trying to remember. 5:30.
5:30, 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30. There was information that went out just to those parents only. We're preparing for some parent information nights throughout our community regarding enrolling in the dual language program. Also, we do screening, kinder screening for upcoming kindergartners. So we work with our Head Start, with the Methodist preschool. We have our own ECAP preschool and then the ESD preschool across the street. And this year, we are going to go to them and do a parent meeting because they already have scheduled parent meetings to talk with them about our dual language program and then also coordinate so that we can do some kinder screening there at their childcare centers. So in terms of dual language and how students qualify, those students who go through our screening and show that they qualify for a bilingual program, those students are automatically placed in our dual language program. Last year, we had about 15 slots left, and those slots go to families who indicate, we've developed a form, indicate that they want their child in a dual language program. And how our program works here in Kaibi is a 50-50 model. So there are two teachers working together. One instructs in Spanish, one instructs in English, and the children from both of those classrooms, in the morning, they're either getting Spanish and English, and then in the afternoon, the children switch. So truly, those children have two kindergarten teachers, one for the English and one for the Spanish. Next year, those children are moving on to first grade dual language classrooms where there will be two teachers, one with Spanish, one with English, and they'll be doing the same thing. So we're excited that the program's going to be moving on to first grade next year. In terms of training, we're collaborating with the Grandview School District this summer, the end of June, and our dual language teachers will be receiving some training from a trainer who's from the East Side. Grandview's been on the waiting list to get that training for, I think, at least 3 years. And finally, they're able to go and be there. So it's gonna be good for our staff to be able to attend that, and we won't have to pay for a hotel and all of those kinds of things because it's close enough for the training. For our migrant programs, I've just listed the types of activities that are happening here this spring. There's lots of activities that we have going on throughout the year, but these are the activities that are going to be supporting our migrant students this spring. And then our multilingual program is our bilingual program, and we are also having state testing right now. Started in February, it's going through mid-March, and all students who qualify for the bilingual program get an English language test. And they have to score out of that test just to not be placed in the bilingual program. And it's an English test that goes over reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And it is comparable to the state SBAC testing, the reading, writing part of the state testing. So those kids get tested twice in literacy when they do the bilingual assessment. It's an English test, and then the state literacy test. Okay, I think I've covered everything. Any questions?
I know, saw you on here for, your retirement.
I am.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
What do you think your biggest impact is leaving, because for me, I know what it is, just the dual language program. I didn't get to see the development of it, but I got to see the implementation, and that's what I associate with you.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm very, that's one of the reasons why I stayed this year, to make sure that got off. The staff that we have in place are very, very strong and great advocates for the program. So I feel really good about that. The other part that I think, when I first was hired, I was hired for special education only. And then I took on the migrant and bilingual programs the following year. And so that was fairly new to me. And so I think building both of those programs, I'm pretty proud of. The multilingual or bilingual program, we have been able to get 10 of our general education teachers their English language endorsement. And that is huge because we transitioned from a pull-out program where we had one ELL teacher pulling students out and working with them. Now we have general ed teachers, K-12, who have their ELL endorsement, and those count as services for those students because those teachers have earned that endorsement and know the strategies of how to develop English language within those students. So, thank you for asking.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, we will be moving on to unfinished business with a financial update. John?
Thank you very much. So with our cash balances, I went and looked, and similar to last month, we're actually $200,000 better than we had projected as far as how far we are in the red. And just kind of going over and doing a quick and ugly analysis, plus listening in on all the conversations I've heard. I have to commend our principals and our directors, and again, our staff and employees in Mona for making sure that, we're only purchasing things that we absolutely need to. There's been times Reeves come by and said, we really need to figure out how to fix this. Here's a few different options, and gone over those things. And so, the district as a whole and Mona have done a really good job of limiting a lot of those expenditures. So I definitely want to call that out and commend them. We've started our 24-25 annual audit, started getting the documents over to the state auditors, and we will continue to be working with them for the next few months. We are continuing to research expense reductions and ways to increase revenues for the 26-27 fiscal year school year. One of the things we do not want to do is, make any kind of reductions to anything that's going to affect the students. However, similar to many conversations I've had over the last 14 years with friends and family who are educators, our business is education. So it's very difficult to, reduce a budget in one particular section that's not going to affect the students some way. I think the goal is to, minimize the total effect on what we're going to be doing. It's just very, very difficult to do. I've seen that in large and small school districts. We're still meeting with the county once a month just to kind of go over, our plans, our financials, our cash flow to see where we are. The last meeting was last week. They seem to be pleased with our plans and what we've been working through. We'll also be meeting with OSPI, just, as we have been doing to go over our financials and our plans, and discuss the changes since the last time we've met with them. And we can continue to move on with them to see what they want to do as far as any kind of binding conditions with their financials. We did submit the board reports all the way through January, so those were in your board packet. And those should all be nice and clean. February will be ready by the next board meeting. And that is just about all I have. I do want to say that it looks like the expenses that we've got are about $500,000 less than we projected from the beginning of September until the end of February. So, that's a pretty big number just across those 6 months as far as, projection versus actual expenses. So I guess it's really good to come out. But that is all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I like your report, it's good. One thing I would mention is to the people who are the consumers out there, giving that type of information about savings and things is very, very important when it comes time for us to pass a levy. Because it is a situation, then you can kind of monitor and say, here's what the cost is, to the public. And here's what we're able to do. wanted to do, but we did it with less money because we were trying harder or that kind of thing. That's real positive to the voters out there who say, yeah. Then it isn't a thing of, well, we're always overrunning. Nothing more hurts a person going constantly and say my projects are overrunning. As a matter of fact, we're underrunning, and that's good information. It develops a good attitude.
Well, I think it's just, a lot of the conversations that I've heard and I've been involved in, mostly hearing, but there's a lot of outside the box thinking, from directors of trying to make sure that, anything they're doing as fiscally responsible as possible. So, that's a good thing.
All I'm saying is that's good that we know that, but we want to make sure that our consumer and our paying public knows that too.
Excellent point.
Because that's real important.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Just because I'm new, do we have a grant writer or somebody that just writes grants for different things, like, that are out there or looking for grants?
Pretty much.
Yeah, we don't have a specific person on the payroll for writing grants. I take care of all the state-specific grants, and then as we come across them, John, Mona, and I work together. For instance, we just submitted a grant for about $700,000 for some HVAC improvements as well as some lighting improvements at the high school and middle school. So as we come across them, yeah, we take care of them with those two handling any on the fiscal side, myself doing the grant narrative, and then we have a third-party contractor who handles all the project scope and process, and then we all come together and submit it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, if there's no more questions, we will move on to facility use update. Pete?
Yeah, thank you. We've had several discussions around facilities used by the community and issues that we were coming up against, and I think that we've come up with a solution that I think we have been a little too broad in describing this as trying to decide if we should increase the rent of our facilities. The truth is, rent isn't the issue with facilities use. At issue is the overtime that we have to pay for our maintenance and operations folks, our custodians, to come in on days when they normally aren't. Okay, so let me give you an example. We have youth teams, for instance, that use our gymnasiums for $1 a day. And they come in on the most days of the week. We have custodians already here, so there really isn't going to be any increase in cost for them to go to practice, for them, anything like that. At issue is when we have things like the Chamber of Commerce coming and using our entire commons at the high school for Winterfest. That's not on a day when we normally have anyone. So even though it's a community event and even though the rent is very cheap, we don't then turn around and make people responsible for what the true cost is, which is the people coming in to clean it up and get it ready for school on the following week. So what we've decided is we're not really going to be looking at rental increases for any group, whether that's a community group, internal group, or anything like that. What we're simply going to say is you're responsible for the cost to clean it up and make it school ready following the event. So that simply means that, for instance, the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to hopefully have a long continuing relationship with them. But instead of us throwing in that time for our custodians to come in and clean it and get it ready for Monday, their rent isn't going to increase. They'll simply be responsible for the cost of the custodian. And that will then eliminate also any discussions about raising rent on our tournaments and things that happen as fundraisers over weekends. Those can still happen. And instead of raising rent, we're simply saying you're going to be responsible for cleanup and the custodial to open, unlock the building, things going, get the restrooms all set up. And then when they come back, they do the cleaning, restock the restrooms, restock the paper towels and things like that. So that way we don't look like we're penalizing some of our community groups that want to come in on a daily basis and use facilities. What we're really looking at is for those events that require a person to be here, it's simply going to ask that they pay for that person to come in and clean up the event and for that person to be here. So we think that that's going to be much more palatable to our community groups that are not making a profit. They're not trying to turn a profit on anything. They're simply trying to use the facilities because they're here. And for those that are here on weekends and do turn a bit of a profit, we're not going to be asking for anything exorbitant other than simply to say our custodians that are responsible for coming in for cleanup, that would be their share. That way there will be no misinterpretation of whether or not we're trying to make a profit on anything or anything like that. It's simply the cost of personnel to come in and make the school ready for school the following Monday.
So we'll have a base rate for that, for weekend work?
Correct.
Is there a minimum, like 2-hour minimum?
Yeah, we'd have a 2-hour minimum, and then depending on the facility itself, or depending on whether or not people needed IT help, that could be an add-on, because we do have some folks who come in and they want to have a computer to be able to put a projector up and do a presentation, things like that. But this, I think, is a much more fair way to try and assess what you really need, because the facility is here, as most people know, and as most people understand, we want it to be used. We simply can't handle the personnel costs required for cleanup of for those types of events, or opening and shutting when there's no one else here. Yes, sir.
I think that's real important that you explain it that way, kind of the two phases. We're not charging you rent for the building. All we're saying is that we need you to help restore it so it's usable, and that they've already, because if there's one comment you'll hear out there, we've already paid, the public said we've already paid for that building.
Correct.
And so, yeah, you have. All we're saying is that we just need help restoring it, the maintenance of it after you leave.
Yep.
And that makes it a lot more palatable to the taxpayer out there.
Correct. Yes,
So
ma'am.
is there, I know currently there's like a facility fee, and then I know one group, they pay a facility fee and then they pay 3 hours a janitor fee. So that's gonna just stay the same? It's gonna be a facility fee and then janitor fee, or just?
For some of our
janitor fee,
folks
or-
that are in that position right now, yes, that would stay the same. And I think most of it is, quite frankly, most of it's internal, meaning that they're internal school-based fundraisers, not like an AAU event or anything like that normally hasn't had to pay that. Those would be the types of scenarios where we would say, yeah, we're gonna have a 2-hour minimum for the custodian to come and stock. Well, everything should be stocked, but for the custodian to come in and restock and then do any cleaning necessary and secure the building. One of the hardest things about, quite frankly, about being nice and saying, okay, the doors are locked, just make sure everything's closed on your way out, is when it's not closed on its way out and it's open all weekend. So it's worth that extra hour of time in my world to have that person come in to secure the external building, make sure nobody's getting in and doing any damage. But realistically, when we looked at it from this point of view, the people who are already paying those types of fees won't see any increase. It's really the ones who have, quite frankly, been used to getting things done for free. We're simply at the point we can't do it for free anymore. And so it would simply be that 2 or 3 hour custodial cost.
All right, we are going to move on to new business. Item A, policy procedure 6220, bid requirements revision. Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, thank you very much. Policy 6220 is what the state deems a critical policy, and of course, we've had it in place. How this came up is because we actually noticed a typo, which was in the procedures of 6220. And so we were getting ready, and we were just going to highlight a couple of areas to bring that back to the board to just approve, and we put it in the books. And as Heidi and I looked at the newest version of policy 6220, it had a significant amount of rewrite and some significant additions. And they are primarily in requirements. As you look at policy 6220, you will see that there are numerous references to minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, preferential treatment for certain types of local businesses, as well as caveats for crimes against children. It goes into a lot more detail for the process of awarding, but the actual financial requirements don't change that much. However, because of the significance of the policy itself, we wanted to just say, we're not going to highlight 3/4 of it and let you try and reorder it the way the new one goes. We thought we'd bring 6220 to you and let you go over it in some detail. I'm not going to ask you to approve this tonight. Typically, when we're simply doing a change to a policy, we'll say, okay, board, this is what the change is. We'd like to just go ahead and do it, and we'll get it up on the internet tomorrow. These are significant changes, so I'd like to have the board take a look at all of the changes. The entire policy 6220 will make the change in procedure, which didn't change significantly. But given the policy update, we thought we'd better give it to you, give you some time to digest it. We'd come back for approval at the next meeting.
So 6220P will replace all of 6220 as it is, or is it?
So 6220 is the policy.
Okay.
6220P is the procedure.
Okay.
The procedure is where we noticed a comma in the wrong place, but in doing the background research, we thought, no, we need to put the whole darn thing back in front of the board, give you a chance to look at it, and then move forward with hopefully an approval at the next meeting.
Do you have any questions now? Or, because we'll come back to it at the next meeting. Any other questions? Thank you for that, Pete. We will move on to student participation in board meetings discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much. We've had internal discussions over the years about ways to increase either student participation or student recognition at board meetings. And as we've had the opportunity, much like we did tonight, we bring kids in front of the board, but I know that there has been some discussion about ways to increase that. So we wanted to put this on the agenda so that we could have just a discussion about this, about ways we can continue this practice as well as improve this practice. And then that brought up the question of, once again, is it time for us to consider appointing a student to be a student member of the board itself? And this is not a discussion that we've had. Obviously, Tressa just joined us tonight, so it's a whole new board for that matter. But we have not had this discussion in about 5 years. And so I thought it was simply time to have the discussion again. Or if it's a matter of exploring options and opportunities, certainly that will work as well. But mainly just wanted to give the board an opportunity to do some brainstorming around some ideas that you all might like to see in ways to recognize and get more kids out and involved.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sent you the note. I do like, the opportunity that around maybe a non-voting student member type of thing. To me, it just becomes more visibility and more recognition because we are a school district. That, that like when Clay's here, Mr. Davidson's here, that when we have significant academic, sports, club, that type of stuff, that there's a mechanism that the kids can be recognized, that coaches can be recognized, those types of things. And then I just think it becomes more, people are watching on Zoom, those types of things, that there is, the recognition of the success the district has. I mean, just like, the state superintendent award that you announced last week, those types of things. Just looking for, like Tressa was saying really well in her interview, the transparency and the reason we're here. And, I just think anytime we can celebrate those successes with kids, then they become more engaged, the parents become more engaged, and then there's that positive recognition for, those naysayers in the community that think the school district can do no good. So that was kind of my thoughts behind the question and the ask. So.
I'm not opposed to having like a student voice on the board. There's a lot of our districts around us that do it. So I guess my thought process on it is, you were saying, having a mechanism to like bring kids in and stuff, that would be one student. I would love to see multiple students. So like tonight, we were briefed by multiple supervisors across the district. I wonder if we could potentially have it as a standing agenda item to have students come and speak at the board meeting.
I think you were reading my mind, because how he worded it.
Yeah.
A direct report from student bodies.
Yeah,
Whether-
and that's middle school, elementary,
Yes.
high school students. So they all have something to say and something valuable to add. I would love to hear from all the levels.
And my opinion on it is that these are students that we are trying to get them ready for real life.
Mhm.
And you will have to make presentations, you will have to, have updates, that I think it would be a good experience if we could have something along those lines,
Well, and typically our students who would sit on a board or something, those are our highly motivated students anyway, right? Those are our students that already are usually in leadership positions, ASB presidents, things like class presidents, those kinds of things. I want to hear from the students who aren't those things. I want to hear from our CTE kids and our dual language kids and those parents, right? Like, I want to hear from the kids that aren't those kids that we don't always hear from.
Yeah.
We, in another lifetime on the board, long time, we did some of that. And I think it paid off very, very well. There was one issue though that we had to watch for. And that was because you give people voices. And just like being on the board, you have a board member that feels, well, we ought to do this. And the rest of the board says, no, we're not going in that direction. So it's easier if you're on the board to have that situation. It's a little tougher. What we experienced was a little tougher to have a group come in who were not bought into that process, go ahead and speak, and then later on in more of an executive session, we could say, yeah, we want to do that. We want to try to move a little more that way, but we can't move that far because it's not legal, And so it is a process. And so when you do it, you have to understand it's good to open the door, but you also have to close the door. And that's the part with that gets a little more complicated, I've seen it where, it's a really good idea. Unfortunately, legally, personnel-wise, we can't do that way. We can try to do this, but it's something we gotta kind of watch for both ways.
I think if I've read the room, what I would like to propose is, if I'm not mistaken, and Heidi will be quick to correct me, we should have principals coming soon. why don't I meet with the principals and let them know that we're having this discussion. And that way, during their presentation, because of course this isn't something we can just spring on them and say, hey, bring a kid with you. However, what I would invite them to do is to speak directly to the board about their impressions of how they could implement something like this within their building, because obviously what Miss Upton would bring from the elementary school might look a little different than what Mr. Henry would bring, which would give them an opportunity to let you know what they're thinking. They could hear directly from you, and then make a plan to start something before the end of the school year, as opposed to just saying, let's try this, shoot from the hip, and then, oh gosh, I hope it works. Because that, we all know how those tend to end. But I can meet with them and let them know kind of where the board is thinking and invite them to give you some comment on it.
I think you got a really good point there, because instant action is really great, except if you don't know all the bases that you're touching with the instant action, all of a sudden it says, well, we can't do that, or gee, did you know this is going to create this and this. So it's a great idea to bring, like any board, and then the board has to do its function of, let's investigate this a little, because that's our responsibility to keep the whole organization going as opposed to this change.
Mm-hmm.
But I think payback has to be, or I guess the closing out of it really has to be, and this is the tougher part, is when something can't exactly be done that way for a legal, personnel, or whatever issue, then the board really owes it to the district to letting that person know. It's a great idea, here's how far we can go. So it isn't, or we can't do that legally, and then that way they don't feel like, it was just ignoring.
Agreed.
I think it's a good thing to continue discussion.
Yep.
Get out with the principals and see what you guys can come up with, bring it to the next meeting.
Absolutely.
I think bowling with bumpers.
Yeah, I don't think we should overnight anything, definitely keep it as a discussion. But I do think it's a great idea to try and get more student participation involved, because I know that even my son, until he actually had to come to a school board meeting for wood shop, and he was involved in the club, and I didn't even know until he showed up. And they made our name plaque. He had no idea what goes on at school board meetings, and most kids don't, and I think that they really should have some idea, because it involves them, we're here because of them. So, we'll continue that discussion. And we will move on
Okay.
to TriTech Business 2026 school year and busing. Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, thank you very much. TriTech busing is coming to a bit of a head because as Mr. Hassel, Mona, I, directors, teachers, as we're looking at potential places for budget cuts for next year, every once in a while we start having these discussions, and we want to make sure that what seems like something that goes on the list that we're going to prepare for the board, that what we're thinking is correct. And this issue has come up a couple of different times, and I felt that it needed to come before the board now by itself, because we're getting ready to register at the high school for the next school year. And Mr. Crago, if you have anything to add as I'm going through this, please jump in. As we were projecting out costs for next school year, we have been very fortunate in that we've provided 2 buses, one of the AM, one of the PM for TriTech. Our ridership this year has been right around 15 kids per bus. We have, I think it's about 44 kids total right now who are going to TriTech which means obviously some of them are going on their own. Our projected cost for that next year, though, for that bus to go twice a day to TriTech is $90,000. So as we talk about, as I bring specific items to the board, and the last one of these was when we had our Camp Wooten discussion, and we're trying very hard to make that happen and coming up with some financial options for that. That was an impact of roughly $22,000 additional for impacting 100 kids. So now we're talking an impact of $90,000 for potentially about 40 kids next school year. So we're getting into that, as John was making reference to. Yes, we're impacting programs, but we're also looking at the law of diminishing returns. We're spending a higher amount of money for a lesser number of kids. My personal thought is that this would absolutely be one of those things that I make recommendation to the board that we discontinue for the 26-27 school year. And if we let our high school age kids, remember these are kids who are juniors or seniors right now. And if we let them know now that we have to make this cut and that there's going to need to be other ways for them to find a way to TriTech every day, then we're fairly confident, and with my conversations with Mr. Henry, we're fairly confident the majority of them can make that happen, giving them 6 months in advance to make those types of plans. That being said, and I know it is not apples to apples, but we've discontinued our transportation for athletics. We have yet to cancel an athletic event because we couldn't get kids to the athletic event. And I think with our upperclassmen only, the giving them 6 months to make some arrangements would be in the district's best interest given the cost of continuing to run that bus. Now, I did get an email from Paul Randall, who's the head of TriTech, and he would like to meet with me next week to discuss co-oping with another district or even another 2 districts to try and share some of that cost. And so I'm not going to ask you for any final decision tonight, but we have begun letting kids know at the high school at least that there is the possibility, if not probability, that at the least we will diminish our busing to TriTech with the 50-50 chance that it won't be there at all. But with Mr. Randall reaching out, I feel obliged, given our long relationship with TriTech, to see what he has to say and what he's thinking. Because as we've heard said a few times, sometimes it takes somebody else looking at a problem to think of a way that's outside the box and try and solve it. So the easy thing is for me to say, we're going to just whack it and say no more. Which if it came right down to it, I would give you that recommendation. However, I do feel obliged to seek out every possible solution. Mr. Rob?
We went through this with athletics and the one concern that kind of comes up is, yeah, the district's going to spend this to have a bus with a driver and X number of kids on it. If we don't provide that, we're going to mobilize 26 vehicles on the highway with 2 students in each, and they're going to make that trip. That puts some people a little bit more risk out there. Because now you've got the whatever number of cars instead of a bus with a professional driver, huge going down the highway. That was the biggest concern. One of the biggest concerns that we ran onto is, let's not save that amount of money if it's going to endanger our people. And there has to be a balance made. Now, it all depends on where they're going, how far they're going, and everything else, but that really needs to be looked at.
Agreed.
Do you have an idea, have you spoken with the TriTech director as far as other schools, let's say distance-wise, as from Benton City, that are not doing busing? obviously, if he's gonna have a discussion with you regarding possibly coordinating with other school districts, there might be some options, but, where do kids come from? What's the distance? How, what schools provide that service versus not providing that service?
Yeah, right now, I have a feeling his where he's gonna aim at is, I know Prosser is having these same discussions internally right now. I think part of where I'm at as well is in my conversation with Clay Henry at the high school, we're one of the few high schools in our league. So he meets with the league principals on a monthly basis, and we're one of the few who still buses to the skills center. Now, some of that goes the opposite direction, meaning the Zillas of the world that would actually go towards Yakima or Wapato or things like that. I think that, well, quite frankly, the programs are more numerous and it's a bigger program here at TriTech than it is in Yakima. But from his point of view, and when he's meeting with his peers, he's one of the rare folks who still buses kids to the skills center. It may be that we're able to come up with a compromise to make some things still happen. As of right now, whenever Kennewick School District has school and we don't, our kids are responsible for getting there if we don't have buses available, if school's closed for some reason. So we're having those internal discussions as well. For instance, our spring break is a different week this week than Kennewick's. So that's going to necessitate some action on the part of those kids to get to school when we're not when Kennewick is going to school, but we are not. Because those are things that we talk to TriTech about on a regular basis and making sure that everyone's aware of that.
Are we allocated so many spots at TriTech, or is it just based on who signs up for it?
No, we are allocated spots because we were one of the, I cannot remember the term for it, we, not a founding member, but we're on the board so that we have a vote whenever something big happens at TriTech. I get to go vote on it. So we're one of the original members, along with the three, Columbia, Burbank, Findlay, Connell still buses. Obviously, that's an entirely different can of worms because of the amount of time required. So I have a feeling that more and more this is going to turn into a luxury for the outlying districts than it will be when diesel was $2.50 a gallon versus $6.
Is there any discussion or contemplation about Benton Franklin Transport, the buses? Is that an option, or how long would it take to catch a bus here and get to TriTech, and does it match up and all that?
It does not match up whatsoever right now. Now, there is some discussion around increasing the frequency that transit comes through, because right now, basically it's 3 times a day. And it's the same route that goes to Prosser, and they happen to stop by and go through here very early in the morning around midday, and then once at the end of the day. If they were to change those and make it more accessible, that would absolutely be a preferred option. It just has never come to fruition.
Well, I feel that TriTech is really important because obviously not all kids are going to go to college. This
Yep.
is a way for a lot of them to take care of themselves as soon as they're out of high school because they're on their own. But like I said, I was thinking Ben Franklin Transit, or is it a possibility that we only do 1 trip a day, like only do mornings or only do the afternoon? If maybe that's a situation that we could look into. I don't know if the one bus is also, that takes it in, is one that's bringing them home. So it's really just 3 trips instead of 4, or how does that work?
No, it's 2,
Okay, so it is 2,
Yep.
4 trips then, okay. So maybe 2 instead of the 4, maybe
I know that, because I've had conversations and Mr. Henry and I have had conversations about potentially limiting it to a morning or an afternoon slot. And the problem that always comes up, but I think the reason we have these discussions is because now some of these problems are going to simply come to a head and we're going to have to make decisions. What that does is eliminates some classes we offer here because they're only offered in a morning or an afternoon session. And if they coincide with TriTech, then that simply isn't going to be an option. I'm thinking, Keith On's leadership class, for instance. Now this year we have two sections of that. Typically we have one, and so if you were a TriTech kid and it was going at the same time as leadership, you weren't a leadership student. But I think that's why we're talking about it now at the beginning of March rather than May, is to try and gather some consensus around things that we can make happen versus things we simply have to bite the bullet and say, we tried, we aren't gonna be able to do it for now.
You had said that you'd already reached out or kids have already been told that the possibility is not there. Have you gotten any feedback from that, from either
This
parents or kids?
just happened, I believe Thursday or Friday last week when they were getting ready to have some meetings around what to sign up for the next school year.
Is there any way to get some feedback on the kids interested or qualifying to sign up for TriTech to verify if they have their own transportation, so we
Certainly
can
could.
narrow down that potential group?
Yep, absolutely. I mainly just wanted to get this in front of the board tonight so that we could know that this is a discussion we need to have that'll continue over the next meeting or two so that we're prepared and not have it be just another item on a list that I'm asking you to approve or not approve.
I appreciate that because having been that age myself, I'm thinking about, well, Dan's gonna run into town, into school, run into school. And then he's gonna finish up and come back, X number of days a week. And all the other things that we can, be efficient to do over in town. And that seems, that really makes a parent nervous a little bit.
So
It's like Running Start, you have, Running Start is a great program, but you have to find your own transportation, pay for your
Correct.
books and.
And that's juniors and seniors also.
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay. All right,
And that's all I have.
any other questions, comments for the TriTech busing for now? Alright, we will move on to board comments.
I have lots of ideas, but, so Pete, you mentioned that we don't have the same spring break as Kennewick. Why aren't Tri-City schools collaborate on spring breaks? That just seems weird to me.
How long have you lived here, Mike?
7, 8 years.
I mean, we don't start on the same day or end on the
Yeah,
same
and
day
I think most of us
either.
are. It just happened to be an odd off.
Two of the three are this year. A lot of times they try and work together. But you have situations where us, for instance, we do our calendar yearly. Kennewick votes on sometimes 2 years at a time, sometimes 3 years at a time, sometimes 4 years at a time. It just varies.
So, and maybe you have this for next meeting, on the agenda, more update on Camp Wooten,
Yes.
update on the trap club.
Yep.
And then, I love Tress's transparency and stuff, so, just thoughts, and again, I have lots of ideas, around Parent Square, and if we did like a board director intro once a month or something like that, just that goes out on Parent Square that would, hey, Mike Peterson, and kind of add some flavor to something different than what they see just in a board meeting or, Just an idea.
Absolutely.
No, I think, wasn't part of the board, but certainly, kudos for the state superintendent award. I think those are super positive things that, all of you should be super proud of, and we want to continue that, so.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, did you want to mention that? Because, I saw the announcement go out today on the Facebook page, and I think it's pretty important to acknowledge.
No, it absolutely is, and I sent the information out to the staff today, and we've got things out there on social media, and you'll go on the webpage and such. I know I got a call from the Tri-City Herald tonight prior to the board meeting. And so I know there's going to be another, a regular Tri-City Herald news article that's going to come out tomorrow, next day at the latest, is what Mr. Rosane told me. One of the things I'm very interested in, because aside from the fact that, the state superintendent is recognizing us for academic progress over the past 2 years, it's very important to me to be able to digest that for the board and be able to bring, this is exactly why we were chosen, what are we doing well, and then what are some areas then that we could tend to improve in. I also have a very selfish aim, because one of the things I do know for a fact is 2 of the areas that they have used in order to measure our success have been cut in this legislative session. So I'm going to turn that around and try and use that as a plug for, if truly we are going to be measured in our number of students in CTE who are utilizing dual credit, why was it just cut and reduced at the state level? If you truly want to recognize us for improving our attendance rates, why did you cut the ESD's budget and eliminate our attendance specialists 2 years ago? So that's entirely on me to be able to go to our legislators and say, the state is recognizing us for these things, and the action taken has been to cut funding for some of those things, which seems to me very ironic. In a very non-funny ha-ha sort of way. But it is absolutely a great thing to be one of the inaugural winners of that. You can only be first once. But I also want to be able to say that we can replicate it, and I want to be able to say that we're continuing improvement. And oh, by the way, you need to keep funding these things that you're acknowledging us for.
I think that's real important, because we get a chance to our local voters who finances support it, get a chance to see it twice. And that's important, in that here's what was done, and then when you go, as you were saying, finishing it up, we get to, again, as we told you, here's what we were doing, here's what this supports. Because you can't get enough, at least my experience, you can't get enough of that information into the voters. I mean, they really need to hear it a couple times. Because like me, they got their life going too. Oh, well, that's good, I heard it 4 months ago, but that gives an opportunity to renew that information, because eventually they gotta vote yes.
Yep.
I know that some people don't like social media, but that is the world that we live in now. So I think the more information that people know, and the more that they see what we're doing and what's actually happening, the better it is for everyone. Like I said, the transparency, they need to know what's going on. Our voters and our parents and students, they all need to know what's going on. So I think just putting that stuff out there and letting everyone know what's going on is very important. All that, especially all the positive, when you put that out, we need to see all that positive. We need everybody sharing all the great things that our kids are doing. Every time that we have an FBLA or a FFA, award, it needs to be everywhere. They need to see how awesome our kids are. That's just the bottom line. If they see how awesome our kids really are doing, it's gonna make a difference, because right now, if there's so much negativity and people are just concentrating on that, we just need to show them how amazing these kids are and how they deserve a good education and good
Opportunities.
opportunities, exactly, thank you. That's all I have to say.
You said what we were all thinking. Any more other board comments? All right, well, we will move into executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110, Section 1G, performance of a public employee for 30 minutes with no business to follow. And this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.